Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney. And we are pretty much going to get straight into it, Larry, because I don't know where to start in terms of, I don't know the title of this podcast, but is the club sort of officially in crisis? Because at the moment, from top to bottom, everyone at this club, from the fans to the manager to the board, are all pulling in different directions. So from you and me to the security guards, to the people at the mega store, to Kath on reception, to Solskjaer, to the players, to everyone, every single person is pulling in different directions, and many problems have been highlighted in the last couple of days. So you keen to dissect it all with me?
Got nothing better to do on a Wednesday night, mate. Let's rip into it.
There are some comments. Good evening to Ryan. Hope you're well, mate, and Antonio as well. So if you are in the live chat, please do leave a like on the video. It does help with the channel, and get all your comments in because there is a lot to discuss. We'll get into it. But before we get started, I just want to start on, it looks sad news. Obviously, everyone saw the news yesterday that Walter Smith passed away. Obviously, Rangers great, but obviously I think many people forget, maybe some younger fans, obviously forget that he was a part of United. He was Sir Alex Ferguson assistant for a short period of time. He came in, I think it was 03 or 04, but I remember he came in obviously when Ronaldo was first there type thing. I oversaw the FA Cup final against Millwall. And I just want your opinion, not your opinion, Larry, but your thoughts when Man United, well, it was announced, but then Man United put out a tweet saying rest in peace. You just knew what was going to happen. I was thinking, now I'm stupid. I was thinking, okay, I'll go into this thread and maybe you could have a discussion about when he first came in, some highlights from that period of time. Obviously, Ronaldo was there, the FA Cup final against Millwall. But the replies to that tweet saying rest in peace to Walter Smith were, look, I'm not going to say shocked, but because I was completely not shocked, but it was absolutely disgusting. Some of the stuff I saw was, why are you tweeting this out? Don't think we've forgotten. This isn't going to deflect where the real problems lie. Someone was saying Ole's hopefully next to join him, sort of thing. So just your thoughts. Obviously, it's sad news, but just the reaction to the news online.
What do you say, mate? There are idiots in society, Tom. I think we've all come to accept that. We see idiots in our everyday life, and unfortunately, Twitter's no different. I think for the majority of United fans, ones that you meet face to face at the ground, this football club has exposed me to some wonderful people all around the world that I'm extremely grateful for, and they're all wonderful people. But like in any facet of society, there always is going to be, there's always going to be idiots, isn't there? And unfortunately, you saw people in the comments talking about Ole Out, rest in peace, but Ole Out. It was disgraceful. May he genuinely rest in peace, as a man, as a human being, over anything else. Because may we never forget that football, as much as we love it, is just a game.
Yeah, no, definitely. And a few more guys in the comments, which is good to see. Aaron, hope you're well, mate. Wes as well, hope you're keeping well. Mike as well. A mad latest member of our pro clubs team, doing well. Hope you're well, mate. And Rob from It's a Football Thing, hope you're keeping well. And just one more comment here before we get into it. Flim Flam saying, let me just say there is no way Fab is as plugged in as United as he claims. He's been briefed as person's version of events, which I think is that's a topic for another day in regards to Fabrizio Romano. Obviously, he started pretty much a Man United fan channel at the moment. He knows what will get clicks and he knows what will sort of generate stories and headlines. But he obviously does have his ear to the ground. He obviously does have great connections, but it will be interesting to see where his sort of career goes in the next 6 months' time. I'm sure he'll be doing bloody watch-alongs with Goldbridge and ranting and raving because he knows that'll get views. But you still have to take his word, and I'm sure he does have his ear to the ground. But some of the stuff we will discuss tonight, we'll discuss the board in terms of Woodward, the Glazers, etc., their sort of inactivity and how it is going to cost United, not only in the short term, but obviously the long term. So we'll discuss that. But obviously the manager situation in regards to Solskjaer almost being given 3 games. Sort of the latest around Kante, Paul Pogba's latest, not comments, but sort of the news coming out regarding Paul Pogba and his desire to have Solskjaer sort of maybe moved on. And obviously Sir Alex Ferguson attending Carrington with Martin Edwards yesterday. Just your thoughts on that. But we will start on that Solskjaer news, Larry, and get your thoughts on Solskjaer in the comments in regards to this. It looks like, and who knows how accurate reports are, but we have to go by what the general consensus is saying. The reports are suggesting he's been given 3 games. That's until the international break. So we have Spurs this week, then Atalanta, and then obviously the Manchester derby, which we'll obviously be getting together for the first time in months in Sydney. The pubs are open. The Man United Supporters Club here will be watching that at the pub in Sydney. Unfortunately, it might not be a great night, but it'll be good to catch up with some Reds. But just your thoughts on that news. He's given 3 games. I think
weak leadership, top to bottom. if you're going to decide the man's future, now look, we've come on here and we've said, as much as we back the manager, we think it's the right time to move him on. And I think 90% of United fans are in the same boat. Even Ole's most devout supporters have a level of acceptance that it's probably time to move on and part ways. But if you're giving him 3 games, based on what, it's clearly showing one of 2 things. It's a clear indecision. It's not having the bravery to make a decision. Or, in fact, it might actually be the other way, Tom. It might be the sensible decision. I've had time to think about this. And the reality is maybe United haven't had the time to really scout their number one choice. We've seen constant rumors around, is it the Ajax manager? Is it Antonio Kante? Is it Zidane? Is it Brendan Rodgers? We just simply don't know the answer to that. And I'm wondering, are they simply buying themselves time? Because the reality is he going to win those 3 games? I think a betting man would say no. Maybe it's the right call because they're saying this will allow us to actually figure out who's in the market, who could actually come in the short term, but then who could come in the long term.
Well, just before, I just want to touch on the football and sort of ramifications. Solskjaer being in charge for the next 3 games we'll have. Just on that point, and let's focus it, narrow it down to Antonio Conte. Let's say you've mentioned sort of they're searching for a manager. Let's say they've identified Conte and he's the man. Again, how accurate those reports are, who knows? But there's sort of strong reports coming out of Sky Italy are suggesting the reason they're not acting now and giving Conte the job now is, let's face it, if Antonio Conte comes in tomorrow, there is still a very strong possibility we lose the next 3 games. Tottenham away, very often, you could always pencil that in as a loss. If Tottenham play well at home, they're a chance to beat United. That's shown in the past that can very well happen. Atalanta away in the Champions League, any team can go lose away in the Champions League. Then obviously Manchester City, even if we're flying at our best, there is a possibility of losing that game. So, and obviously we saw Solskjaer when he come in, he would very likely have won those 3 games with that new manager bounce. But if Antonio Conte was to come in this situation and lose 3 games on the bounce, you could only imagine the reaction. I think the reports coming out of Sky Italy probably quite well sort of calculated, saying, well, we'll make the decision in the international break and sort of give Conte that extra week, a bit of a cleaner break from all parties. But just on the football point of view, this is really highlighting, and whether I completely agree, and sort of there's an aspect of it I agree, which is the correct decision to do. However, what this is doing is completely highlighting the issues, or what the Glazers sort of desire is to do in regards to keeping Solskjaer in a job, and firstly maybe hiring him in the first place, is he's got 3 weeks now where he's going to be hung out to dry. There won't be a discussion about the Glazers. It'll be, why isn't Solskjaer doing this? Why isn't Solskjaer doing that? Why is he picking this player? Why isn't he picking that player? We need a new manager. We need Solskjaer. We need Conte in. For 3 weeks where the Glazers just sitting back, well, it's unfortunate we didn't get that cricket team.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. As football fans, we put everything into Manchester United. The Glazers are simply businessmen. That Manchester United's just one of their many ventures, unfortunately. And they should have been planning for this 3 weeks ago. If they knew that there was a possibility of this ever going wrong, even if things are perfect, you always have to prepare for the worst. I feel like a well-organized, well-drilled football club would do that. If you think back to Manchester City, and I hate to compare, I should say, but they were buying, when Pellegrini was the manager, they were buying players for when Pep Guardiola was going to come in 18 months later, because they had a football project. They knew that we know where we want to be, so we're going to start planning for that now. Manchester United don't do that. We're very much a reactive club rather than a proactive club. And that's just unfortunately the nature. That's the way it will be while ever the Glazers are in charge, Tom, because look, I don't agree with the sentiment of all they care about is top 4. I genuinely believe they do want to be champions, but I don't think they're willing to do whatever it takes to become champions. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, well, Antonio here saying completely agree. Board were unprepared and we're hoping for the best. Yeah, I think that almost does sum up in terms of the Glazers, whatever you make of their ownership, and obviously we think it's a poor ownership. A lot of it does come down to hope. They just throw this and think, geez, hopefully this works. But Ryan here saying Andy Mitten's interview on Sky Sports was compelling, and Mike also saying Andy Mitten is great getting back on the pubcast again soon, guys, which we definitely will. He's a little bit busy at the moment, but yeah, Andy Mitten has been on the podcast before. We'll definitely get him on again, maybe in the new year. But obviously the manager situation, every journalist in England is very busy, obviously. Flim Flam saying Andy's an honest journo. We're saying which pub, if you're in Sydney, where's obviously, if you can see the banner down the bottom of the screen, the Man United Supporters Club, our home pub and main sponsor is Scruffy Murphy's in the city. But just send us a message and I can forward you all the details if you want. And we'll move on to Kante in a sec, but Antonio's saying I think they're trying to get Kante or someone else before they act to it, which, yes, it's frustrating in terms of seeing Solskjaer being given these 3 games and to be hung out to dry, but yeah, maybe just situation. You look at some of these big contracts, maybe they do take time to sort of get sorted. And Ryan here saying, I guess 3 games gives the clubs time to speak and interview candidates. City game will be the one where it all comes down. And Josiah saying 3 games makes sense if they're after Conte. United are probably trying to iron things out. He left Chelsea because he fell out over the transfer targets. And I just want to move on from that point from Josiah there to you, Larry. In terms of Antonio Conte, we all sort of laughed and bantered around the Spurs job when he was the number 1 candidate for the Spurs job. And pretty much Spurs wanted him. Conte wanted to come back to the Premier League. He was happy with going to Tottenham. But sort of at the interview stage where he's sitting in the room, sort of heard Tottenham's plans and what Tottenham had in store for him. And Conte just said, stuff that, I'm getting out of here. I don't want anything to do with this. I could just imagine a situation where Antonio Conte is sitting down with the Glazers, Matt Judge and Ed Woodward. And no matter how much money United throw at him and how appealing the Manchester United name is, Antonio Conte is a football person. He would absolutely see through everything. And there's a situation where, okay, Man United, we can go out and get anyone. Well, Conte might not actually want us. He might see through the absolute shambles we are in.
No, I don't agree with that. Different kettle of fish, mate. I think Conte wants to win the Champions League. I think that's the one competition that eludes his career to solidify him. I think he's in the discussion anyway. When you're talking about the elite managers in world football, he's not the top of the top. I think the top of the top at the moment, you would say, is Tuchel, Klopp, and Guardiola, and rightfully so. You can throw Nagelsmann into that conversation, but I think Conte is just in the bracket below that. And the only thing he needs to get into that top bracket is a Champions League trophy. And you know what? You look at the United side at the moment, realistically, we're only probably 2 signings away from making that happen. As bad as it's been, and this is where it's such a unique situation and what we're seeing at Old Trafford. Since post-Fergie, there's always been the excuse, if you like, of we just don't have the player, the caliber of player. This is the first time where you can say the manager's not getting the most out of the tools at his disposal. So I think Conte, actually, it will be the perfect opportunity for him. I think it'll be one where he will come in, and I think the Glazers will give you money. I think now that we're in a post-pandemic situation, while COVID is very much alive and thriving, United will have a bigger bank account and a bigger transfer budget to play with fans back in the crowd, with corporate suits back available. So I think he'll jump at the job. I'm certain of it. And Fabrizio Romano is clearly, if you want to talk about ears on the ground, someone in the Conte camp is definitely speaking with Romano. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, Rob obviously knows a little bit about Conte. When I have a feeling Conte will be the Man United manager within a few weeks, and we'll definitely get Rob back on the podcast here saying, because obviously he follows Juventus quite closely and in Italian football, saying Conte doesn't win in Europe.
Rob's right.
He's a league winner, and I'm just thinking we'll definitely get Rob on the podcast in terms of dissecting Conte, what he brings, what he doesn't bring, etc. What he would think of the current squad as well. Ahmad saying I'll take the league any day of the week. Well, at the moment I'm looking at Champions League football. That's what I'm pinning my hopes on. But Ryan's saying Ten Hag or Poch for me over Conte. He sounds like Jose 2.0. Wins in the short term, but at what cost to the club and everything Ole has built in the last 3 years, and that is completely the sort of the balancing act at the moment we find ourselves in. And Ahmad saying Europe can come later. Let's get back to dominating England before we can work. It's a case of sort of got to walk before you run sort of thing. But we'll move on to the playing sort of side of things and the players in the current squad, or the player in the current squad who was causing or stirring all the headlines as usual. Paul Pogba and this news, though, I want to get your opinions because, one, I think there is an element of truth. I think with Paul Pogba, where there's smoke, there is fire. However, in my opinion, and call me a cynic or call me naive, depends which way you look at it, it's an easy story for him. Very easy story for me. As soon as Solskjaer was likely going to be sort of out of a job, you saw this with Jose Mourinho as well. Very easy to turn your biggest, well, he's probably not our biggest star. We've got Ronaldo in the team now, but it's no hiding from the influence Paul Pogba has and how much controversy he brings. Turn him against the manager. Very good story. Now, of course, there could be an element of truth in it, and I would be maybe, look, Paul Pogba does have enormous respect for Solskjaer, I'm sure of that, but he does sort of start the odd game here or there on the bench. So your thoughts? Am I a bit lazy saying it's an easy story, or do you think there is a little bit of truth to this?
Great timing, Tom. Paul Pogba's posted on Instagram not too long ago, and he has said, tabloid press once again wants to create problems with 100% fake news, big lies to make headlines, journalists who use my name to be seen when there is nothing to see. The only reason I address this BS is out of respect to my coach, the club, fans, to send a clear message. The less you read these people, the better you are. They have no shame, and they will say just anything with no basis at all.
Very good time. Yeah, I didn't know about that. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. And then here we are, 2 days later, saying give Paul Pogba that new contract, which we were saying get rid of him 2 days ago. But just on that, well, okay, that goes to my part where I was saying it was a lazy story. It was a very easy story for the press sort of to write. They did it before. Now maybe there was a lot more truth in it with Jose Mourinho. But say, okay, Paul Pogba's come out with a statement. Fair play to him. However, do you think there is something now that's maybe sort of widen the discussion from Paul Pogba and look at it from a player's point of view? And Eric Bailly, okay, he doesn't have the influence, but let's say Cristiano Ronaldo or a Jadon Sancho, we all know this situation with Donny van der Beek. Could you see a situation with senior players and sort of influential characters in the dressing room having an input in the new coach, or not new coach, but the managerial position in terms of, okay, we'll talk about Sir Alex Ferguson, which we'll get into, him sort of approaching arriving at the training ground. Darren Fletcher, John Murtough are obviously there. Can you see players having much influence in this current decision?
Look, I think players will always have some influence over what happens at a football club. If not players, they're agents, absolutely. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. You can't tell me Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't have an influence in that dressing room. George Mendes, he's got two massive clients there in David De Gea and Cristiano Ronaldo at the football club. There's always going to have that element there. And unfortunately, players have cliques. And like we are debating what the state of Manchester United at the moment, I'm certain the players are discussing offline amongst each other. They'll have their leaks in the media that, we're hearing these reports. So the players, while they like Solskjaer, don't necessarily agree with the training that happens. Look, it's hard to say. We're not there, of course, but you know what solves a lot of this, Tom? Winning football games. Because when we're winning football games, all these rumors suddenly disappear, don't they? But look, I think players will be. I think their agents will definitely make their voices heard, but I don't think it'll be the ultimate decision maker. If United's leadership is solid, which, look, I can't tell you I'm convinced, then you make a decision based on the football club, not based off any one player.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And if you agree with that, and obviously Larry mentioned in terms of winning football games, which would like to win a football game eventually, please like the video. There's a few in the chat. That would be very much appreciated. But we'll move on just before we wrap up to sort of the man
Sorry,
I sort of
Tom,
mentioned.
but I want to interrupt you for a second. You brought up Paul Pogba, and I want to ask you this because I've been thinking about this, and I made some very harsh comments when we reviewed the Liverpool game, and I said I wouldn't, if I was United, I'd be withdrawing that Paul Pogba contract offer. I got to be honest with you, I haven't changed my mind on that. I look at the balance of United's football side at the moment, and what I think Ole is struggling with is, while he's brought in better players, I think we can all agree with that. What United have lost, unfortunately, is a balance. I think United would actually be a better football side with Edison Cavani playing striker rather than Cristiano Ronaldo. But Ronaldo is the better player, don't get me wrong. But I just think that Stephen Howson made a really good point in his video. It's the system that the players need to bend to. I feel like Ole's trying to bend to the players, and that's the problem at the moment. And I think that Paul Pogba is a major reason why United's balance is wrong. So we said this after the Leicester game. So again, I ask you this. Do you get a more balanced player in midfield, maybe two players in central midfield, get a Yuri Tillman sort of player, let Paul Pogba go, and then suddenly the issues we're seeing in the midfield suddenly disappear?
Look, as I said, it's a discussion we always have with Paul Pogba. This week, I agree. Next week, or hopefully not next week because he's suspended, but after the next good performance by Paul Pogba, I'm looking at the quality he brings and saying, how on earth can we get rid of the quality? Because I still could very well make a case. Now, he doesn't perform consistently enough to sort of back this case up. But in terms of ability and what he offers, I could definitely make the case that he's the best midfielder in the world. And just think, what team is getting rid of the best midfielder in the world, or potentially the best midfielder? But I then go back to the case, well, Nani was the best winger in the world when he played like the best winger in the world. Paul Pogba was the best midfielder when he plays like that. He doesn't often play like that. And I just think it's a case of balance. I think you do look at, maybe it is a case of Pogba and Bruno. We've all made the case, okay, they can play together, they can't play together. But yeah, maybe in the balance of a squad, okay, I'm not saying play Paul Pogba in a 10, but play him in that more advanced role, well, then you can't play Bruno in there. And it'll be very interesting when Antonio Conte comes in, but let's say Conte comes in. From all reports, and I've spoken to Rob, who's in the comments, who's sort of followed Conte's career, saying very rarely would Antonio Conte play with the number 10. So you look at potentially the most important player for Man United is Bruno Fernandes, who is almost the textbook number 10 or that area of the pitch. What's the future for Bruno Fernandes? So then you're saying, well, if Antonio Conte comes in, is actually the more brighter future for Paul Pogba rather than Bruno Fernandes. And we're having the Paul Pogba discussion in regards to Bruno Fernandes, and he's maybe the one who is shipped out, which seems unfathomable at the moment. But football is a funny game. That could be a very sort of real situation in a few months' time.
And this is why this next appointment is crucial. If United are taking their time, in fact, in deciding, okay, what manager do we want? Because they have to consider things like Paul Pogba, the system, how that impacts other players, what happens with Cristiano Ronaldo if you get a different manager in. There are all these moving factors that United, the hierarchy, need to consider. So I think they need to be smart. They need to make sure that they're picking a manager that fits the ethos of what they want to identify with as a football club. I think every United fan, and look, call me a romanticist, rightly or wrongly, I want someone who believes in promoting youth players. I want someone who plays football in a positive way. And I want someone who might not ever fulfill the ambition of being at a football club as the manager for a 10, 15-year stint. But I want a manager who wants to aim for that ambition. And I just don't think Antonio Conte ticks those boxes. He's a good manager, but I just don't think he fits the mold of what a Manchester United man should be. So, yeah, I would like to see the Ajax manager. And even, look, I personally don't like Pochettino, but I understand the argument for Pochettino. He resonates with a lot of those values that we discussed. So, look, it's a massive appointment for United, and they really need to consider what the repercussions of it is going to be.
Yeah, well, it's a story that's not going to go away. It's only probably going to intensify over the coming weeks and coming months. And Antonio making the point, he's saying Pogba not signing that contract and letting us play the waiting game still doesn't sit right with me, which I completely agree. But then I look at Roy Keane, Ryan Giggs sort of thing, they sort of run down contracts, Rio Ferdinand sort of thing. These things have happened, but when they come at a more successful time and sort of a more likable character at times, they're a lot easier to deal with. But I'm out here sort of summing up nicely in terms of saying since Mourinho left, this is the most commitment we've seen from Pogba, and coming off his best season since returning to United deserves a bit more respect than what he's currently been given, which is why sort of when we brought up the Pogba sort of discussion here, I alluded to, in my opinion, it was a bit of a lazy story. I didn't quite agree with it. While I think there might be a little bit of smoke. So I'm glad, Larry, you're sort of scrolling through Instagram and saw that he sort of did post, and I'm very glad he did address those because, yeah, I wasn't happy with the way that story did come out. But we'll move on to the last sort of topic in regards to tonight's episode and Sir Alex Ferguson. And again, the Paul Pogba, was it a lazy story? Was there something in it? Is there something in this story? Who knows? Time will tell. We don't have sort of ears at Carrington, but from all reports, he did sort of arrive at Carrington yesterday, obviously with Martin Edwards as well, obviously former chairman and sort of a title that doesn't really get thrown out about there, but sort of the current Manchester United president or honorary president, Martin Edwards currently is. So obviously a very high figure at Manchester United now. And just your thoughts on the story, because it's come in, again, how accurate they are, who knows, but he's come in and maybe had a talk with the players or talk with Solskjaer, who knows. Just your thoughts on what you've heard and what you make of it. Is there truth? Well, obviously there's a little bit of truth in it, but in terms of, it sounds like he's come in, or the way it's been reported, he's come in and just said, set all the players down, sit down, you all back Solskjaer sort of thing. Now, obviously that's not how it's come across, but that's how it will be reported amongst fans in terms of they know that'll sort of stir a lot of interest and controversy. So just your thoughts on the news and how it broke.
Look, no one will know whether Sir Alex and Martin Edwards were at the football ground, but what I do believe is the reports around, if they're true, Sir Alex backing Solskjaer. I could understand that one, and it's one you can envision, but I want to make sure I'm wording this carefully. Nothing detracts away from what Sir Alex achieved as a football man, but again, I feel like a good board should be able to make a football decision without the consultation of Sir Alex Ferguson. You can take his opinion, absolutely, and he deserves that respect. But you shouldn't die on a hill based on his word. And that's my issue with it. As much as I like Sir Alex, he's the one who chose David Moyes. That was clearly the wrong football decision. And Sir Alex, as great as he was, made mistakes. He made mistakes in the transfer window. He made mistakes tactically. He lost football games. He's a genius, but he's not perfect. And I think United need to be disciplined enough to assess a situation. You need to have football men. If this John Murtaugh is actually the genuine director of football, he should be having a say in this. And it should be a decision made around what is best for the football club, not what's Sir Alex or Gary Neville or any other one of his mates thinking.
Yeah, no, in terms of, sort of evaluating or sort of putting a value on his football opinion, I completely agree that the board shouldn't be looking at Sir Alex Ferguson for answers, nor should Sir Alex Ferguson, while his opinion is great. Like we all sit here and say no one's opinion is better than anyone else as well. Sir Alex Ferguson, his opinion does weigh a little bit more, and rightly so. Even if you think it's wrong, he's been there and done it. We haven't been there and done it, so he knows a little bit more about what needs to be done. We can obviously disagree with his opinion at times, but yeah, the way I don't like this story, and again, it could be very well true, like the Paul Pogba thing, who knows? Well, Pogba has come out and sort of said it wasn't. But in terms of the way this story has come out, I just think it's another very easy story. They're now starting to turn people against Sir Alex Ferguson and those I don't want to say hardcore, but those hardcore Ole Outers who have gone too far in regards to the disrespect towards Solskjaer and abusing him now. They've just said, okay, Solskjaer, you've been an easy target. Gary Neville, you've been an easy target. And now you see on social media, they turn on Sir Alex Ferguson. And I cannot get my head around that, Larry. Just talk to me on how they could do that. Do you think, well, we sit here and say, okay, they're not Manchester United fans. At the end of the day, they buy shirts, probably a few of them buy tickets to the games. They do want Manchester United to win. So who are we to say they're not, okay, we don't value their opinion or value their sort of support of Manchester United. At the end of the day, they are wearing a shirt type thing. They do want United to win. How can Man United fans be sort of turning on Sir Alex Ferguson? Are you shocked or are you even surprised by it?
Why we're even discussing it, mate. Like we opened the video with, idiots are going to be idiots, and they're in every single group in society. Unfortunately, you can disagree with someone without disrespecting them. I think that's the issue with all of this at the moment. You can think Ollie's not the man, but you can still respect his legacy and what he's done as a manager and as a football player. You don't need to go on there, criticize a man, say he should be like Gattuso and he should be resigning without asking for another dollar. He's got a contract. He has every right to request a payout should he be fired. I'd be doing the exact same thing, because you can love a football club without holding yourself to ransom, essentially. So, no, I don't agree with it. We just need to learn to be more respectful as a fan base. What I loved about Manchester United when I became a fan was there was almost a class about the way our fans carried themselves. You still see that class at Old Trafford. But online, unfortunately, Tom, it is what it is. I guarantee you 90% of those fans who criticize Sir Alex watch highlights, 3-minute highlights, and they're basing their opinion of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer based on those highlights. Certain of it.
Yeah, just on your last point there in regards to a fan and sort of why you support Manchester United, why you started, just my next point, and Josiah sort of makes a point here which sort of segues into it as well. Sir Alex Ferguson wouldn't have achieved the impossible dream if he didn't have someone backing him during his darkest days. He knows what Ollie's going through and showing some faith that was shown in Sir Alex. And I just want your opinion there, because everyone's saying, okay, it's not the same situation as Sir Alex. Okay, he was shown backing, but it's a different situation. Solskjaer can't be shown that. He needs to be shown the door. And that's completely right. However, I've made this point before in regards to why you support Manchester United. It's not about winning. People think it's about trophies. No, it's not about that. Manchester United at its core, at the club's core, not the football pitch, the club at its core is about the support, is about sort of loyalty, is about respect. And Sir Alex might deep down have the opinion that no, okay, Solskjaer isn't the manager to go forward, and that is why he's part of a board that is talking to Antonio Conte. However, on the ground, dealing with Solskjaer face to face, he needs that support by Sir Alex Ferguson just out of a respect. But I think some people are now saying, well, Sir Alex doesn't have the greatest interest at United at heart. He's showing respect to Solskjaer. He needs to be sacking Solskjaer. I don't think that's the case. Chelsea is about, and here we are sitting, okay, Solskjaer needs to go. We do not want him sacked, but we want him removed, sort of thing. But it's not about that. Chelsea are about winning and sacking managers, and fair play to them, that's their model. But that is why Chelsea fans support Chelsea. Manchester United fans didn't start, maybe some now, but sort of you, me, and sort of the older generation didn't start supporting Manchester United for winning. You look at some of the biggest part of, or one of the biggest parts of Manchester United's history in regards to support was the 70s and 80s. You talk to any Manchester United fan from the 70s and 80s, and they say that was the greatest time to be a Manchester United fan. That wasn't about winning. It was about being relegated and being woeful. Okay, that's what. Okay, winning trophies, that's the ambition, 100%. But your support of Manchester United isn't about that, and that's why I'm sort of, I hate using the word, but disgusted in regards to the reaction to Sir Alex Ferguson backing his mate and backing a former player of his.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. But I take Josiah's point as well. I don't necessarily agree, because I think Sir Alex was building the football club, basically. He was taking Manchester United at the time. They were essentially a sleeping giant. There was always the potential to become a juggernaut, and that's what Sir Alex did. He was rebuilding he basically rebuilt the scout network, Sir Alex. I think they were saying when he came into the club, he said, why is there not scouts in every single area of Manchester? And he rebuilt that scouting network. It basically tripled in size overnight. Sir Alex put in the blueprint for what Manchester United goes on to become today. So I think it's a very different situation. You're also, unfortunately, Sir Alex wasn't spending the sort of money that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's had at his disposal. And the reality is, this is one of the best football teams in Europe. You can be as critical as you like of our midfield, and I agree with you. It's not elite by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a good team. And because of that, because of social media, because United is a team on the stock exchange market, all these factors contribute to you just simply are not going to get 4 years of inconsistent form before you're off and running and winning Champions Leagues. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, Antonio, just got one more point in regards to Sir Alex Ferguson in this sort of proposed meeting. But Antonio saying, I'll always back a manager until he leaves, and even then thank them. We're in a much better position now as a team when he took over. Sir Alex isn't done. He can see the improvements. Yeah, completely agree. However, just on regards to Sir Alex Ferguson, before we wrap up, in regards to this team meeting, I just want to get your opinion on how we know about this. Okay, because I look at a dressing room now. You look at the Manchester United dressing room, what have they got? 25, 26 players or whatever, 10 coaches. So there is a small group of people in that room, let's say 30, 40 people type thing. Whatever was said, who knows how accurate they are, but leaks are there. Now, are the leaks just complete fabricated? Who knows? As I said with the Paul Pogba news, there may be a little bit of smoke where there's fire, or a little bit of fire where there's smoke. But how is this coming out? Someone's leaking this. And I just think, surely the management, the staff, the coaches, players can identify where this leak is. And let's say he's come into all the players, sat all the players down and said, you have to back Solskjaer. You have to start putting the effort in for Solskjaer. Completely agree in terms of doing that. But how on earth is that coming out? Surely someone can prevent this, because whoever is leaking it, and this has been leaked for a while in terms of team news and little stories around the training ground, that is almost, it's not the biggest problem with Manchester United, but my God, it's up there in my opinion. Because the stuff when I used to play, the stuff in the dressing room, I wouldn't tell my wife that happened in the dressing room. What happens in the dressing room stays there. Okay? And for this little sort of rumors to come out of it, I think it's shocking.
It's a different time, Tom. Every football club has it. And unfortunately, when you're the biggest football club in the world, you're always everyone's got a price. Everyone's got a price to give something up or give a little bit of news. Or I'll tell you what, you look at everything. Paul Pogba is a great example to use here. Look at everything that Mino Raiola says. That's Paul Pogba using him as a media outlet. Or you look at Antonio Kante. Everything Fabrizio Romano is saying at the moment, where's that coming from? It's someone close to Kante. He's got the connections to do it. He's basically applying an external pressure to the United board to say, come get me. I'm free. I'm here. I'm interested in the job. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And if players just have a different power now, it's not Sir Alex days. Unfortunately, I think when Sir Alex left the football club, and what made him such a powerful manager, when Roy Keane left, so controversial. When David Beckham left, controversial. Cristiano Ronaldo was a different situation. Wayne Rooney, he was willing to let leave. The magic of Sir Alex Ferguson, the second he felt there was a player who could have threatened his authority, they were out the door. And unfortunately, managers just don't have the ability to do that because they're not afforded the time to be given that level of respect. It's just the way it is.
But here we are, and look, I completely agree. But here we are talking about, okay, let's sell Paul Pogba because football does he suit the balance of Manchester United? Do we need a new goalkeeper? Do we need a younger striker compared to Ronaldo? Do we need a new manager? Let's get rid of the manager. That's the problem. In my opinion, at its core, the problem should be the one whoever's leaking this information for whatever reason. If they have a different agenda, whether it's to do with the next transfer or their contract situation, or if they want more minutes in the team, whatever their agenda is. If they are sort of responsible for these leaks, okay, yes, there's big problems in regards to the tactical sort of, or the transfer recruitment and everything. But in my opinion, it's up there as one of the biggest problems, and that needs to be stuffed out before anything because that's something they can control. Solskjaer should go in there the next meeting and say just something bogus to one player. And if that player sort of gets leaked, remember the bloody Colleen Rooney stuff with Jamie Vardy's wife. They should set something up like this. I'm not joking. Okay, that's a bit of banter, but they need to set something like that up and find out who this sort of mole and who's leaking this information. Because while people think, it's nothing, I think, in my opinion, it's something really big.
A lot of it gets solved by winning football games, mate. Look, I tell you what, I think if I were to take a guess, obviously I'm not in any know, but it would have to be a fringe player, someone who's absolutely miserable, someone who's not getting football games. Honestly, a lot of the reports that have come out, I saw one just today from, I think
could be
was it
one matter.
Nicest man in football, can't be one matter. I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, it might have been Henry Winter or Jamie Jackson. It was someone with a good reputation. There was talks of, it came from the United Report Twitter page. There was reports that players were challenging Solskjaer, someone basically after the Leicester game saying, or, the centre-back was half fit. So you look at that, you're thinking, well, it must be Eric Bailly, surely. And Eric Bailly, if you think of the comments he made in the off-season, he was saying that, yes, I've signed a new contract, but if I'm not going to play games, then I'm happy to look at opportunities elsewhere. He just signed the contract 2 months earlier, and he's making comments like that publicly. So like that sort of thing shouldn't be tolerated. And maybe that's why Solskjaer didn't pick Bailly for Maguire for Leicester. Who knows? But, unfortunately, Tom, how do you stop things like that? You can't keep everyone quiet.
No, I understand it's almost impossible, but it's just something that compared to, the Sir Alex Ferguson days, which we've touched on in this podcast, it's just a shame how it has gone, not just in a football point of view, but sort of a society thing. But my mum's obviously tuned in. Hope you're well, mum, but obviously agrees with me. I'll have to tell her. She probably doesn't know about the Rooney and Jamie Vardy story. I'll have to show her that and that sort of the story from that. That was what a night on Twitter that was when that broke. That was amazing. But Ahmad saying one Bond in regards to one Matter, and Flim saying, is Matter still there? Look, he is. I'm still convincing myself he's there. I still think
is he the solution to our midfield problems, Tom? Has it been with us all along?
I still think in terms of, we're not going to be playing Jadon Sancho on the right. Are we playing Juan Mata on the right? Because one of my biggest issues defensively for Manchester United is in transition. We lose the ball too carelessly. We lose the ball in a position where the other team is able to break. Okay, and so we think, we've got so many defensive issues, but it stems from losing the ball in an attacking position. And I just think Juan Mata is so careful with the ball. It will improve us defensively. You look at our best defensive performances last year. It came with Dan James on the left and Juan Mata on the right. Okay, not great players, but defensively and sort of attacking in terms of a safety point of view, they did their job.
For someone with no legs, he had a good. He pressed better than any
very intelligent on and off the ball, and
absolutely.
Yeah, Antonio, he's saying don't disrespect Matter, which obviously.
I would support him coming into the side, I really, really would. I think if you're looking for just to get a bit more balance in the side, a bit more defensive strut in the side, I really don't think Juan Mata is an awful shout.
Look, you're definitely not going to get any arguments from me. However, with Solskjaer's job on the line, I can't see it. However, while I think it probably would it would benefit in some aspects, it would take away in some aspects, but I think he would definitely offer something.
D-Cup, blasphemy.
Ahmad saying, imagine Twitter if Matter starts ahead of Sancho.
I'd start him over Bruno at the moment.
So Matter will leave in January, which is a very strong possibility. We'll be interested. I don't think he will. I think it'll be in regards to a free transfer at the end of the season. He can go.
He should play more, though. He really
definitely. Well, he should be playing in the League Cup this week, but obviously West Ham knocked us out a couple of weeks ago. He should have been playing today. Who have West Ham got in the League Cup? We should have definitely been playing. But we will sort of wrap up the podcast there. If you have enjoyed it, there are a lot in the chat, which is great to see. Please like the video. That'll be very much appreciated. And if you are new, please subscribe. Almost at 250 subscribers. That would be great to hit before or while Solskjaer is in charge, because that might not be too long down the track. But Larry, always good to chat and dissect some big issues with Manchester United, which they're not going to go away because of our chat. But I think we do look at the football, we do look at the tactics and who should have passed the ball there, should he have scored that goal. It's a very small part of the football club. There are far bigger issues.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Pleasure as always. I've seen Emad's comment here. He'd start me ahead of Bruno. I tell you what, I got a hell of a left foot, mate. If you ask Tom, he still doesn't know what foot I am. So there you go. Quite the talent.
Usually that's a positive trait, but I wouldn't use that in a positive trait. But if you do want to come down and watch Larry and I play football, if you mentioned here, so Wes here mentioned about the pub saying good chat, boys. Thank you, Wes. But in regards to the supporters club, you can see the banner here going across the bottom. Man United, New South Wales. Larry and I will both be playing, and a few guys in the chat as well. We'll be playing against Watford on, I think, Sunday the 5th of December in Sydney, just a charity game. We're undefeated in 11v11 football. We are quite a nifty little team. So if you are in Sydney and want to come down and watch a Manchester United team actually win a football match and score some goals and put in some tasty tackles, please come down and watch. Just send us a message and we can forward you all the details. And when we sort of set up a GoFundMe page to donate, we'll be continuing the work Marcus Rashford has done in regards to sort of the food bank work. We'll be raising money for the New South Wales food bank here. So we'll leave that link once we sort that up. Once we sort that out, I'm sorry. And everyone can donate and get involved. But it will be good, Larry, to sort of have a Manchester United badge on our chest and actually win a football game.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to bring something to everyone's attention. Samuel Luckhurst, by the way, the amount he's been posting on Twitter, his thumbs must be bleeding. Never seen him post so much. Cristiano Ronaldo has attempted to rally the Manchester United dressing room in their time of crisis. Sources say Ronaldo is holding the dressing room together, and he has encouraged teammates to support Solskjaer. And not bad for someone who prances off the pitch, eh?
Oh, no, rightly so. I think Ronaldo, and he has that influence where no one will say a word to Ronaldo. They might think something deep down, but they'll sort of back him and say, okay, well, if he's saying it, he might sort of, we do have to follow it because he's been there and done it, and I'm not sort of at his level. So I think that's good for Ronaldo. Even if Ronaldo deep down wants a new manager, him showing the support and trying to get more out of the players, that's why we brought him back. Okay, we did bring him back to score a couple of last-minute goals and sort of help us on the pitch. But it's what we're talking about in terms of Mason Greenwood, his development, Marcus Rashford, his development. That's such an important part of Ronaldo's return. But we will be back maybe tomorrow or the next night for a Tottenham preview, mid-table clash against Tottenham. I saw a sort of one of those meme going to about when it's Manchester City against PSG, it's the El Clasico, where this one, Nuno and Solskjaer, the El Sacico, will be interested in who loses their job first, because we're in a mess, but Tottenham are in a bigger mess, I think. There is no sort of light at the end of the tunnel for Tottenham. They are always going to be Tottenham. But hopefully you did enjoy the chat. I remember, please like the video. And if you are new around here, please subscribe. That would be great. As I said, want to hit 250 subscribers while Solskjaer is still in a job. But Larry, always good to chat to you. We'll chat Spurs in a day or two.
Yeah, pleasure, mate. Always keen to talk about Spurs. It's only Tottenham after all.
That's it. Oh, famous last words. Here we are. Harry Kane hat-trick incoming. But it'll be all solved. If one matter does play, I'm very confident. But as I said, hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Have a good couple of nights, and we'll chat to you soon. Cheers.